Thank you. So this is a commitment, right? We came all the way to Lisbon to spend the next 3 days with thousands of our colleagues, founders, VCs, journalists. The entire ecosystem is here. For what? Well, if you're like me, I came here to connect with many of you and learn from each other. But how do we learn from each other? Well, it starts with an open mind. We have to leave our preconceptions behind and empty our cup of the old ideas so we perhaps can take out some new ideas that we're going to learn today and tomorrow. And one of those ideas are going to be the ones that change the direction of your company when you go back to your shop. So we are in Lisbon, we're open-minded. Then we have to spend time making connections. And connections take time because connections are about being present, to listen and to share. Listening and sharing necessitates vulnerability, presence. But being present is hard, isn't it? Can I see a show of hands who here has a phone? Just kidding, of course you have a phone. Who here has a phone that just buzzed in the last 2 minutes since I started talking? Show of hands. It's many of you. Why? What are we missing? See, at its core, technology is supposed to buy us time. It's supposed to get us time back so we can spend time doing human things like connecting and being with each other. But does it really do that? We have this love-hate relationship with technology that on the one hand, we buy it so that we can get free time. On the other hand, it has become this distracting morass of stuff. And this distracting stuff is what robs us from the very time we bought technology to get us. Time to pay attention, time to empathize, time to care. And see, when technology behaves that way, then it's not doing its proper job, is it? When technology is stealing the very thing we bought it to do, then that is the wrong relationship with technology. We at Outreach have a different vision for technology, and it begins with our mission. Our mission is to empower the 30 million sales professionals in the world to unlock their fullest potential. The key is, how do we do it? And we do it by observing how they work, how they do their jobs day to day, which includes how do they run the meetings, how do they forecast, how do they make money, so that we can put workflows around it that allows them to do all those things faster and more efficiently, so that they can get back time. Time that they can use to meet more customers, perhaps, or deepen their relationship with the customers that they have, or even go home and spend more time with their families and their communities, collaborating, contributing. And it is this drive to empower the sales professionals to unlock their fullest potential that has driven us to invent new things for them. This is why we invented something called sequences. Sequences is a series of steps you need to take with somebody you don't know to get that person to take a meeting with you so you can sell them something. And the number one reason for sequences to exist is the fact that anyone who is in a sales job or is a leader of a sales group or a company that depends on sales necessitates reliable, consistent productivity from your sellers. And a seller that reliably contributes is a seller that creates pipeline reliably. That's why we build sequences, to even the playfield. This is why we put AI on top of meetings, a real-time AI assistant that is able to understand the conversation between a buyer and a seller and understand the question the buyer is asking the seller so that they can pop a card. And the card needs to pop within 5 microseconds because that is faster than the sound making it all the way back to the brain into the mouth. So we need to, in that 10 microsecond span, we need to pop a card to make sure that we help the seller be the best self in the time when it's most needed. This is why we put AI in forecasting, because we human beings are really bad at seeing patterns. We put the whole thing on a single platform so that the seller has a place where they can execute their jobs. Because see, for us, sales is not about gathering data. It's about executing on the data you have and applying AI to make sure that everyone has the same chance to be a winner. And it's a single clarity and purpose of vision that drives us to continue to innovate so that a seller can be the best self in the moments that matter. But we don't stop there. Because given all the advances that we're seeing that just announced by OpenAI last week, we're now in a world in which the context window of these models is so large that we can start creating bespoke assistants for each of you. These are customized agents that know exactly what you need and how to optimize your time so that you can do your activities, in the highest value activities, and spend time doing that. So imagine if you are a rep, a sales rep, and you wake up in the morning and outreach is telling you that today, the most important thing to do today is to get that purchase order out so you can get that deal done in the quarter. And then we're going to spend an hour prospecting 2 quarters out so to make sure that you don't miss your number. And we're going to re-engage a couple of accounts that haven't called on you. That's the kind of AI that I'm talking about. If you're a manager, it's going to prepare you for your one-on-ones. It's going to prepare you for the meeting you're about to have at the end of the week with their board. That's the kind of AI I'm talking about. And I know this is inevitable because we're building it. We're building it to get us time. Time that we need right now in moments of uncertainty, in moments of turbulence, so that we can help our teams get through it. Let's take a moment to take stock on where we are right now, because the world's a little bit of a shit show. So the rate of deceleration, we're still decelerating from where we were in 2022. Now, the rate of deceleration has decreased, which is great, but we're still decelerating, and that's showing up in the number of sales reps that are participating in a number, so the number of reps that are making quota. And that number was 50% last Q4. In this Q2 that just passed, that number dropped to 30%. So we have less reps contributing to your overall performance. Deal cycles are still elongating. Win rates are going down. Now, the good news is sales efficiency is up in general because buyers are committing to fewer sellers, to fewer vendors. So they're committing more dollars to fewer vendors, which is good. But the other reason for efficiency is layoffs. It's a free cash flow point that we just made a minute ago. Well, when you have fewer people contributing to the same number, you get efficiency. But that's the wrong way to get efficiency, isn't it? We're entrepreneurs, we're founders, we're CEOs. Like we want to grow by growing, not by cutting. In this background, it's really jarring, not only for us, but for our teams. So the most important thing right now for us is to make time to be present, for them. Because our job as leaders is to drive revenue outcomes through other people. Being present for them is so important right now that we need to do it whether we know what's going on or not, whether we have all the answers or not. We need to do it whether we can't help with what they're struggling with. We need to be present even if we're struggling ourselves. Sometimes being present and showing up for your team is all it takes. Let me share a story with you, something that happened to me recently that really taught me about being present. So a couple months ago, I took a vacation with my wife. We haven't been by ourselves in 7 years. And we went to Florence. We had a great time there for 3 days, but after 3 days, we were ready to come back home to our 2 young kids, who are 3 and 7, because we miss them tremendously. So we got to the Florence airport early in the morning. We had a late night connection in Amsterdam to go back to Seattle. And we show up, and the plane is already an hour late. No issue, plenty of time in the connection. We jump on the plane taxis over to the runway, and then stops. And the pilot comes through the intercom and says, "Dear ladies and gentlemen, this is your pilot. I regret to inform you." Who here has heard that before? Who here has heard that on the way here? Right, I regret to inform you that we're going to be delayed by 30 minutes. Fine, 30 minutes is good. We wait another 30 minutes, and then the pilot comes on again and says that it's going to be another 30 minutes. At the end of the next 30 minutes, the pilot goes to the loudspeaker and says, "I don't have any better news, but I'm going to come out and tell you myself." Whoa. Pilot walks out of the cockpit, gets in front of the plane, grabs the intercom and says, I don't know when we're going to leave. There's a storm that is affecting all flights coming from Southern Europe, and we're delayed because they're not letting that many planes go through the storm at the same time, so we're being throttled. And we don't know when are we going to go up. Most likely, all of you will miss your connections. But I'm going to stand right here in front of the plane and take questions from you because this is my responsibility. And I'm like, who does that? Usually pilots are safely behind the cockpit doors and letting the flight attendants do all the bad news. But not this pilot. He stood in front of the plane. He was vulnerable and present to tell everyone that we're going to be late. But you know what happened? The rest of the plane met him halfway through it. The rest of the plane began talking to each other, came and talked to the pilot. They were all a little bit more relaxed. People started making plans about what they're going to do in Amsterdam that night, as opposed to getting all freaked out. And that's when it dawned on me. The true advantage, the true competitive advantage in an era of turbulence in AI is showing up, is being present. But to be present the way this pilot was, we need time. We need our technology to really empower us to unlock the best of our humanity so we can gather the strength to show up for our teams and be present and be vulnerable for them. Unfortunately, in sales technology, which is the world that I live in, technology is doing the opposite. Technology is sucking away our time and robbing us from the opportunity to be present. Most of you know what Salesforce does. When was the last time Salesforce helped you do anything? And this is rife in B2B tech. And because of this inability of technology to get us time back, we have seen a Cambrian explosion of applications. So now you need 5 applications to do one job. So you go from screen to screen to screen to screen just to execute one task. And that cognitive dissonance that is the result of the swivel chair tax is killing us, is robbing us from the opportunity to be that pilot for our team and our customers. So let me share a story of something Outreach did for me to avoid this problem. So when we were early in Outreach, we raised our Series A, and the investor who invested in us was a very boutique shop. And they didn't make a lot of investments. They made very few investments, kind of like Mark Twain says, put all your eggs in one basket and watch that basket. So we were in that basket. We were one of the 2 investments that they made that year. And the investor managed the investment by having a board meeting every month, not every quarter, but every month, because that's how they helped us. So the first board meeting comes on. We had a good conversation. I learned a little bit. The second month, we have another board meeting, and I'm learning a little bit less. By the time we get to the third board meeting, I realize that this time the investor is taking away from me, is taking away from being with my customers, with being with my team, with being with prospects that I can make into customers. So the balance of trade in time is off. I got the wrong side of the trade here when it comes to time. So what I did is I told the investor, look, why don't I give you an instance of Outreach? And you can see everything that is going on in the company. You can see who are we selling to, who are we trying to close this month, who are we trying to close this quarter, and then you can find all the answers to what you need there. And that was probably the most magical moment I had in my entire professional career, because now I was able to inflect the balance of trade. This investor was calling me to help me close deals. This investor was calling me to make introductions into accounts that I needed to penetrate. And I was able to then save my team time by getting the deals go faster. And that is a balance of trade you need to reestablish with your technology and with your AI. You need to demand time back. Because I don't need to remind you that we're living very difficult times. And if you are in business-to-business tech, every deal out there is competitive, every single one of them. And in competition, especially in sales, there is no place for number 2. Only the winner matters. Who here watched the Women's World Cup? Who won? Spain, right? Who came in second and third? No one remembers. That's exactly the way sales works. It doesn't matter if you almost made the deal. It only matters if you won and if you got that money. In this competitive environment, the most important thing is that you get your time back and you demand efficiency from your applications. That is the only way that we're going to get to winning and the only way we're going to get through this. Thank you very much.